Yo, what's up? What's up? It's your man DJ Say Less. And if you rock with me, then you rock with the best. And that's Jesus. Say his name one time. Jesus. Okay, so today I have the Honorable Jada. I introduced you like he was a judge for whatever reason. But yeah, Dr. Jada, since we can just put that on there right now.
Mm.
So Jada, hey, how you doing?
How are you doing? I'm doing good.
Okay. What's your doctor of, Jada?
Traumatology.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Is that exactly what it sounds like, the study of trauma?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, what inspired you to get into traumatology?
um, I am a mental health therapist, and so I just felt like to be more effective in that field, the study of trauma, which I would argue is the root of 98% of our issues, would be more helpful, especially to people in my community.
Okay, what community is that?
I'm from Flint, Michigan, so like predominantly people of color that I've noticed from my own experience having a lot of trauma and normalized trauma that we think that is okay to kind of just operate from day to day. And so just kind of shedding light on maybe better perspectives on how to handle that or what our normal should look like for our lives and not be so I guess what is it? I'm
Conditional?
trying to yeah, conditioned to just kind of accept what we've been given. There you go. Thank you for that.
Yeah, turn up. Okay, so let's
Mhm.
talk about the demographics a little bit. I know we kind of you said jump straight in, so we gonna jump in, talk a little bit, and then I'm gonna go back and reintroduce, like introduce more about you. But
Okay.
we jumping straight in. So let's talk about the demographics a little bit. What you say, Flint, Michigan, and people of color, but is that the
Mhm.
only uh like are those the only two characteristics that makes up the demographic of how you call it, like trauma based, like you know, what you call it, traumatology.
Yeah, traumatology. No, that's not solely the demographic, but for what I feel like I was called to kind of address,
Hmm.
kind of really resonated with me was with people of church culture, and just people of color in general, because I know, I can't speak for everybody's situation, but I've experienced some people who have trouble with going to people who are not like them or represent at least a population that can identify with their situations, even if it's not in totality.
Okay, let's go back a little bit. So, what is it that you being did you say a counselor or a therapist?
Therapists, they're pretty much the same stuff.
Okay, so what is it that being a specific, like a therapist, what does it do? What does it like, why would somebody come to a therapist or a counselor?
So for therapists, clinically trained mental health therapists, they provide you a different perspective on your reality or maybe your life. Some of the things that or situations or experiences that might affect your everyday living or interacting with other people. So, if you want to have healthier, better relationships, if you want to not be so triggered in certain situations that can bleed into not only your close relationships, but your business relationships, it can bleed into how you experience life, your mindset. And so, if someone wants to work on mastering coping skills and identifying why certain things are bothering me or affecting my quality of living, they would go to a therapist for a different perspective. What I tell people is, I'm not here to tell you what to do. We're here to see your goals and we're going to identify what's the best way for you to get there and be happy and sustain this place of healthiness.
Okay, so it's like a roadmap, and you're like the coach almost.
Coach or mirror, I would
Yeah.
say, because,
Okay.
yeah, and to help you stay accountable because I think we show up for a lot of people in our lives, but rarely do we have somebody showing up for us and keeping us aligned with our goals and encouraging us on that journey too.
Okay. Okay. Let's I want to keep opening it up, but before I do that, because you did say church community and you said uh like the surrounding area, like being from Flint.
Mm,
Those two focuses specifically, right? So what is church community? Like in that trauma? Like what is that trauma from the church community?
I'm trying to make sure I understand the question because you mean like, what do you mean by what is church community?
I mean, like what do you mean when you say it? So
Oh,
yeah, like everybody got
okay, like the
so
demographic.
like
Go
like
ahead.
so like if you talk to a certain person, they'll say
Mhm.
church is church folks, people who like God, 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 God. You talk to another person, they say church is the people, not a building. talk to another
Mhm.
folk, they say church is religion. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, these are all sensitive conversations, but so I'm just asking for you to like put language to it. What is church community? So we understand. Well, I hate to assume anything.
Mhm. I guess what I mean by like church community, people who operate within church or operate within certain denominations, because like I said, for me, because the question, if I'm correct me if I was wrong, like what kind of got me started into it, or like what population like I was kind of
Right.
addressing or called to. So I think when I say church community, I mean just people who have a relationship with God or who want to pursue a relationship within God, church, and how to operate within that in a healthy way. I don't really label that to a certain denomination because,
But
you know, everybody has a,
specifically a believer of Jesus,
yeah,
which is
right. That's for me though. That's where I am. I'm specifically a believer of Jesus Christ, but I do have a lot of people who don't have the same belief system as me or govern it in the same way. So when I say just people operating, because remember, like, although I have certain beliefs, that's not everybody's lifestyle.
got
So
you.
if they do, so if like I can't be like, oh, I could implement and be like, I only do Christians, but I don't limit myself to only Christianity. I help a people, whatever that comes as, or whatever they kind of govern their life under, you know. So I don't kind of limit it to like what it should look like as far as like a church community, like under a definition.
Mm,
Just more so, oh, you have a belief and you want to pursue it and be healthy in that belief.
got you. Got you. Um, so I'm gonna try to do the impossible today, right? I'm gonna try to like make the average person who comes from a specific demographic that has a challenging time
Hmm.
being involved in these type of conversations, be in this conversation. So a lot of the time, majority of my questions, 9 out of 10 of my questions are going to be to help that one.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So Jada, you say you're from Flint. What does that mean for you to be from Flint? You was outside.
No. For me to be the Flint, I mean, it's a place, like it's home. I don't even know how to describe like what Flint is, but it's just more so
Okay.
like city I grew up in.
Okay. So let me ask you this: what was middle school like for you growing up
Middle
in Flint?
school. Um, it was okay. I had a lot of transition actually through middle school. I was coming out of Flint schools, and I ended up having to go to a school called Bentley. And from going from a predominant black school in Flint to a predominant white school was like kind of a culture shock. So it was an adjustment period for sure.
Okay. Did you like? Did your teachers understand you, or did you feel like kind of like outcast or anything like that, or no?
I felt a little bit, I wouldn't say outcast, but I knew it was
Or was you
a
like a superstar because you was only black? you know.
mm, more so like I wouldn't say superstar. I was definitely a subject of attention though, because I'm black. I was tall, very skinny in middle school. So, and they would ask about like hair. They would ask, could they touch my hair? They would ask, teachers. They kind of, you could. It's not that they had blatant like different treatment, but you could kind of tell it was like a tone, an underlying tone, a little bit with sometimes interactions. And so, being one of the only black students in the class, I probably had another black student in the class, and it was just way different than what I had in my last school.
Okay. So that's like upbringing. Not to say that defines your entire upbringing.
Right.
That
Right.
kind of gives us a peek into the upbringing. I'm gonna kind of go back and forth between you. I hear that sound periodically throughout this entire conversation. Don't let it trip you up. If it trip you up, it's all good. I kind of like try to reset it if you forget where you was at. But um, what I want to do is like kind of keep flashing back to the past a little bit
Mhm.
because just to make you more relatable to
Mhm.
that the one. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So so um, what is a conversation that should also most of the time in these conversations I kind of already have like a strong direction, but
Mhm.
because you are the profession that you are, I just want to take that to advantage and
Mhm.
let you add language to a lot of different things. So what's something that should be in conversation in a lot of these households that you
Mhm.
particularly like are called to counsel and therapist or I'm slaughtering these words, but yeah, therapy.
A lot of conversation. I think something that should be intentional is perception and opinion. It should
Mm,
be really like identified, like how people process or identify things or receive things is way different than what we might intend, and I think that process should always be respected. um like for me, I grew up in more of a household with my mom, who was a person, single mom, and she got married when I was little, like I was probably like 9 or 10, and she grew up giving me a voice to voice whatever I said, like, long as it was it wasn't disrespectful, long as it was the tone was watched, I could kind of almost say anything I wanted to. Now, she, as a parent, still had the ultimate choice of what was going to happen, but I was able to kind of voice and come to my own type of reasoning of why I felt this way. And, advocating for myself, I think that growing up, a lot of times we're taught to kind of go against our biological signs of I'm uncomfortable, I don't like this, or this doesn't feel right, and we're taught to kind of just push past that and not listen to ourselves or question why we feel this way, you know. And so I think the mislabelment of like how we process our feelings and get to a certain thought, it should be more intentionality there on teaching our young ones, and even us as adults relearning some things that we thought that was set in stone for us. We need to be more intentional about that, if that
be
makes
more
sense.
intentional about perspective and sorry, what was the other one? It was perception and it was opinion. Was it opinion?
Yes, yes.
Opinion. Okay. Okay. So let me ask you something. How important is well? Let me ask this. What role? Well, dang, I gotta ask something else first. Okay. Because I don't never want to assume. So it's like, okay, I gotta go back to the core of the question. Okay. Um, is emotional uh immaturity or like lack of awareness for emotions um uh, uh how much of a like a hindrance is that in the growth in the specific community that you feel called to?
A lack of emotional maturity. I think a lack of emotional maturity prevents people to experience what's happening in the moment, in real time. Because if we're not developed in some of these areas and really filtering how we feel and what this is triggering, or the emotions that we're experiencing, I think that can definitely influence reality and what's really happening.
Hmm. Okay. Let me give you a scenario because I got one in my mind.
Okay.
I grew up kind of in a just well, not even kind of. I grew up in a distressed home.
Mhm.
There are times where I would get in trouble for not knowing things, literally.
Mhm.
And when I say in trouble, I'm talking about getting yelled at the top of your lungs, striked, all type of stuff.
Mhm.
Now, this is obviously, in hindsight, an emotional thing that the person didn't have under control.
Right.
So, in that, is that the perspective or the opinion? Like where the emotion, the lack of maturity and emotion plays, like where it's having an influence on parenting or behavior.
I think when we're talking about this specific situation, with just what you presented,
I think
the
this happens a lot in the community today. Like I see it,
yeah,
like it's short patience. It's all, you know what I'm saying. So
irritability, yeah.
yeah, I see it so much where it's like you expecting this basically this child, this thing that you're supposed to be teaching, to just absorb information and be this like robot and know everything and to, you know, and yeah, this is their reality. So they, you put all this, you put this pressure. I'm not gonna say all or not allowed, but you put this pressure on this child to know things and to do things and to operate a certain way and to help with the flow and the pressure of life and X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. But at the same time, anyway, let you talk. I'm done.
No, no, when we're talking about like that specific situation,
Yeah.
first of all, this person, or the authority figure, is projecting irritability or frustration that is misplaced, it sounds like. Although you have told this child, or you think that you told this child, obviously that child didn't process it in the way that they needed to be effective. So even before communication, this person sounds like they were off their baseline to effectively communicate. So they're yelling. Now, a couple of things we have to look at: were they raised under that type of parentship? Were they raised to kind of yell to get their point across, or frustration or anger? Because obviously they're having a hard time with emotional maturity to be on their baseline to enough to say, hey, I can't communicate to you effectively like I want to. And I need to kind of come to a common ground right now just to make sure that we are both not only talking in a healthy and effective way, but I'm getting my point across to where you can process it. Like some parents, they just go straight to yelling because they're like, you're not listening, no otherwise. But that's what they experience also when you're not being heard, is to get louder, to get angry, to get aggressive, to get physical, And I would argue that's a whole lot of not managing yourself to effectively raise a child. Like, never coming at people's parenting, because parenting can be frustrating. You're literally managing yourself while you're teaching another human being how to operate within this life. It's not an easy thing at all.
Hmm.
But it requires you to be very strategic in a lot of moments, which I feel like a lot of parents, and I say this with like grace, but they don't have time to manage themselves or to be on their baseline, or that's not even a priority for them. You know, I know schedules are what they are. I know life is what it is. But I think if in our community as a whole, as African Americans, if we were more non-negotiable, we have to start making time for ourselves, and everything else will fall into place. Like it's just a non-negotiable, because everybody gets they get the benefits of you pouring into yourself, and that's effective communications with kids. You know, but
Okay.
I don't think we've created a lot of opportunity for ourselves to have those moments.
I was just
But go
about
ahead.
to, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
about to ask you a question. This ain't a controversial platform whatsoever. This literally to show love, and bringing you on the
Mhm.
platform is a form of me showing love to the audience, to kind of like, get them some free counseling real quick, because we
Mhm.
gonna get into how they get involved in counseling, different ways that they can find therapy and stuff like that later
Yeah.
on. But I'm just trying to look out for them and show some love to them a little bit real quick. So okay, but it is a platform to show love. However, I do got an obligation to ask questions when they sticking out like a sore thumb. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Almost like a journalist. Maybe it's literally like a journalist. I don't know. Um, so you were talking about, they parents not being ready to. I ain't gonna say they're not ready. I will say that they are having a hard time managing themselves as well as managing other lives. You know what I'm saying? Just
Mhm.
prioritizing all the responsibilities of parenthood and adulthood at the same time, and whatever else they
Mhm.
got going on. So do you believe, specifically speaking about the community, the church community, and the black community, such as Flint, Michigan? Because I do believe there are Flint, Michigans outside of Flint, Michigan. It might be
Mhm.
Memphis, it might be Jacksonville, it might be different Decatur, it might be Oak Cliff, it might be literally Compton, it might be literally anywhere across the nation and other countries. You know what I'm saying? So I believe
Mhm.
Flint, not the only Flint, is just called Flint, Michigan for
Right.
geography purposes. But my question is, it's kind of controversial, but it's not to be controversial. You don't got to answer
Mhm.
it, but I definitely got to ask it. Are they having babies too soon?
Yeah, babies too soon, and I think that babies with the wrong people. Like, mostly, I want to say 9 times 10, like not out of projection. Obviously, I'm not speaking from a statistical data point of view, but most experiences that I've had with people had kids with people they didn't even really know for real. Too soon, I guess, could be subjective, because some people rock it in their 20s, but really, 20s, do you know yourself like in totality? And that's not even the version you're going to be. Like, after 30, 32. And so I just think that's almost sometimes a disservice. I say that very respectfully. I know it's like we're speaking freely, but these are still people's realities, and so I
I
definitely,
mean, the
as a,
baby's here now. Ain't no taking them back now. We
for
just,
sure, but I think if we could really have
you
a
just
place
saying
where
be
parents,
sensitive.
yeah, be sensitive and create a space where it is okay to grieve a reality that you're living. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, the babies is here. I have to deal with this person. I have to deal with the choices that I made. And it's okay to kind of grieve and still show up in the places that I need to, that this is not the life I thought I wanted. And I think that some people feel guilty because, like I made this mistake. I chose to do these things. And now this kid is here and I have it with this person who does not add to our lives, or, it's very hard to operate with. And you have to speak to that person too and be like, you know what it is to an extent, but give yourself some grace to grieve, to grow, and to readjust to your new normal.
Okay. Now you tiptoeing in a direction that I was kind of leading into. So, when it comes to this reality, this new parent is in, and let's say they 15 years in, 5 years in, meaning the baby 5 years old, or the child 15 years old, or the child 20 years old. They never really embraced and accepted their reality. You know, it's such a thing called, the serenity prayer and things like that. And it's one of the parts is to accept the things you can't change, like to accept reality basically. and it's from observation, it's like apparent that like a lot of people, not just parents. I want to get off of parents now and just talk about the general people. But a lot of people don't accept their reality.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the 18-year-old. Yeah, I was saying the 5-year-old and the 15-year-old, but let's talk about the 18-year-old who sets out to go to school, gets to college, and they like, yo, this is a rude awakening. It's a culture shock. They
Mm-hmm.
smart, but they can't really adjust to secondary, school, whether it be JUCO or whether it be any division of college. So,
Mm-hmm.
can we talk about? Well, can you speak to acceptance and ways to possibly like if somebody came to you and say, I want help accepting my reality. How do you
Mm-hmm.
help this person?
Well, we look at, because as much as people are like, no, let me focus on the here and now, what led us to this moment matters just as much. Because if we're not studying patterns, if we're not studying past relationships, if we're not studying the experiences that have cultivated this human being who's at 18 now, you are going to really, you cannot not watch the beginning of the movie and not get the important parts to understand the heaviness of the middle and the beautifulness of the end, right? So for us, we would first look at childhood. We would look at how did we get here. We would look at the decisions and the thought processes that have shaped you and that has gotten you to this point. Also, we would look at, what am I happy with? What right now in my reality? Because I do believe unhappiness can influence our perception of reality.
Mm,
What am I grateful for? What, like, where is my mindset? Did I leave home a toxic environment to get to college? It's a different world, it's different people. Either I'm grateful or I'm resentful. Either I'm leaning into this moment or I'm scared and I want to go back to familiarity because it's easier to survive. I know how to survive in that. Am
mm,
I in survival mode? And so I think that when we're talking about reality, we have to disarm some of the coping mechanisms and thought processes that have gotten us here and that might have shielded us from where we came from. I have people who I've experienced who don't remember childhood whatsoever. They literally say, I don't remember what happened at the age of 15. Why? Because I had to survive that moment and it had to get me through whatever that looked like. That might have looked like disassociation. That might have looked like sleeping. That might have looked like eating. So why does that matter? When I get to this place where I might not have the stressors of a parent yelling at me or tearing me up emotionally or physically, but I have deadlines, I have requirements, I have people expecting certain things out of me that I don't know if I know how to operate in the way that I need to when I wasn't equipped at a young age to handle things emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I do. Yeah,
okay, so it all bleeds together. And I think with therapy, a lot of people, respectfully, they don't like to have to lean into the process because it's an
that's
intricate
vulnerability.
situation. Yes, it's a responsibility to manage yourself and to be intentional with yourself and manage. So, I think a lot of people shy away from this process of therapy because I'm calling you out consistently. Well, Theo, you if you get in this type of situation, you might be more triggered than you would in another situation. You know what I'm saying? Or that the original trauma of blah 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 might affect how you show up in this moment right now. So if you know that, what are you doing to alter or to show up better than what you could have done at 15? What are you doing more to choose better situations for yourself that you might have could have not chosen at 15? Because sometimes we are drawn to certain situations that we experienced in childhood that we could not affect, but we can affect as adulthood, and we don't handle it well when it doesn't go out better than what we originally experienced.
Man, you saying it in such like with such diligence, but you saying a whole lot. So it's like this was like seriously, like you said so much that it's like man, it's going over. I just know it's going over some people's heads.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I try to pace because it goes, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to highlight some things though. I don't want to keep you forever. It's not like I can literally like. This is why therapy is a process. It is not
it is.
a one stop destination to this. You get to this place of okay. Let me just address some hood myths so we can put a nip in the bud of these. I got my friends. I got my family. I talk to them. That's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you say to that?
It's not because people who are, of course, it's good enough when these people are operating out of the same things and under the same things that you are. They're going to either encourage or, like, I don't want to say celebrate, but people who are familiar with these situations are going to encourage you to stay with the familiar. If you are trying to get to a place where as far as healing, as far as a different level, whatever that looks like, if it looks like relationally or financially, or just a new level of self. You can't keep operating out of the people and what they've operated. When we think about like biblically, taking it back, Abraham did not stay in the land that was familiar to him. He went into a new land, right? So obviously the things that God was calling him to do couldn't happen in the places that he was familiar in with the people he grew up with. And so if we are called to do something different, sometimes saying my friends and my family, they understand me. Your friends and your family have certain projections and experiences and traumas that are going to keep you in the same places that you've been. And it's going to encourage your stagnation of your growth. You need people who are going to challenge you. And then everybody ain't out to get you. And I think sometimes why we say I'm good with my friends and my family is because we're scared of rejection. We're scared of people really calling us out and seeing who we are and calling us higher and saying, no, that's not good enough. You can do better. You can give more. And I think that that's just more so of an isolation that, hey, these people haven't hurt me, or at least I know what to expect with them, that I'm going to shut out the whole world, just to protect my possibly neglect, abandonment issues, and fear of rejection.
Mm, yeah. So that one shut down. Okay. Okay. So um when it comes to paying for these services, what type of help or resources is out there? Do you have to be poor to get help, or is it any like can we put language to that a little bit?
No, you usually people go through insurance, and so you can do Medicaid, you can do Blue Cross, you can do just trying to think of the ones off the top of my head. You got Meridian, all those things. Everybody takes something differently. So when we're talking about applying for services, what you need to do is identify, do I have insurance? Okay. What does that insurance cover and who takes that insurance? Then next you would just if you don't have insurance, you can pay out of pocket. That does get a little more expensive. Sometimes certain therapy session or counselors have a sliding scale, or they have you just pay this amount for a certain amount of sessions. And so there's that option, but I always encourage people to go get insurance, even if it's state insurance, like the most basic kind. And
Okay.
then, do you want me to go into about the services thing? I'm pretty sure we're leading into that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So you get your insurance, and then you look for, like, you go online, you look up for therapists near me, like if you want a certain culture or a certain religion therapist, you look that up. You call the office and you say, hey, I have this insurance. Do you guys take it? And they'll walk you through the process of what it takes to do the intakes and stuff like that. And it really is an easy process. It's just the anxiety of sometimes getting started.
Okay. So to the person that is the listener of their group, they the friend everybody comes to. Does that mean that they are called to be the therapist,
No.
counselor?
Mm-mm.
Is it
Um,
healthy for them to be that person without without schooling, education, and training? Could it be detrimental to them? Things of that nature.
it could be detrimental to them because you're taking in or filtering and becoming a safe place for a lot of people. I would say the listener sometimes it could be operating out of people pleasing tendencies, and it could be operating out of nobody listen to me, so I will listen to you. Even with therapists, and I know this is going to sound really contradicting, therapists and I think health professionals are sometimes the people who did not have it, so they became it. And so when we're talking about the listener of the group, where everybody's dumping on you, everybody's kind of coming to you for advice because you're so you listen, you hear, you sort it out. Um, I would ask them, why do you feel like you have to be the listener? Why don't, do you set boundaries? Although you might have the capability or capacity, you're not teaching them how to operate and kind of regulate through their own trauma. And do you have a listener? You know what I'm saying? Also, sometimes I think that is, like I said, it's just more of a coping skill of I didn't have it, so maybe I can be it for somebody else. Or if I give you that love, maybe I'll receive it when I need it one day also.
Mm, okay. So, at what point is it too much? Do you, with your professional opinion, at what point is it too much for that person that's the listener? When should they say, you know what, I can't, I can't take no more,
Yeah. Um, I think when they
or I
do
shouldn't take no more. How
I
about
shouldn't
that?
take anymore.
Yeah, because yeah, they might be addicted to it. Like, you know what, I can do it. I can do it.
And it's so, you know what is some people are like that. They kind of gaslight themselves
They
into
need me.
taking more. Yes, they need me, and they're addicted to being needed. But that's also like wow, I need it. and that's like a people pleasing thing too. So I think back to your question, when they start to notice within their body, hey, my friend's calling and I don't want to answer the phone, but I have to.
Like a
That's a red
discomfort
flag.
almost.
Yeah. You said like a what?
I said like a discomfort
Yeah, like a discomfort. You'll notice it within your body.
mentally, or like your body will literally like feel like a
Both. Both. Don't dismiss either, because mentally, one day I might have it, and then all of a sudden I answer the phone and now I'm feeling tired physically. You know what I'm saying? I think it's mental, spiritual, and physical thing, because where one might not catch it, the other one might. And so if you're noticing, hey, I don't want to answer the phone a lot for this person, or hey, I'm sleeping a lot, or hey, I'm kind of like trying to find something other, or make an excuse of why I can't do things. That's your body or your mind telling you, hey, I low key don't I don't want to do this anymore, until I kind of hit that burnout in that wall. These are kind of some of the tell signs that, hey, I'm kind of not okay and I don't have it for them, or I'm getting burnt out with these conversations and pouring and there's no change.
mm. What age is a good age to start therapy? What age is too young for therapy? You know, what age is like, okay, you ain't never been therapy, like almost like a check in with a physician doctor. Like, let's talk about ages a little bit.
I love that question, because for me personally, I don't take anybody under 21. And for me, like, I know this is kind of controversial. I think therapy is very good for kids, but unless the parent is willing to go to therapy too and to change their environment, I don't. It's almost counterproductive, because kids are not born depressed. They're not born anxious. Usually it's their environment that is forming these emotions. Yes, they have developmental parts where they experience all these emotions and they're exploring them, but they are usually mirroring what they're experiencing at home from their parents. So even if I was to go back and I was like, you better take these kids, like, just joking, but like, I would have to have the parent in therapy also, because you are the primary cultivator of their environment. And and most of the time the parent is the trigger. So you can start your kids early. They about 6, 7, 5, I think you can have your kids in therapy depending on what their issues are. And then, you got autism and things of that sort that might change that age range, or, bipolar, all of those things. But if we're just talking about no clinical issues like autism or any of those things, unless you're willing to change as a parent, you're almost traumatizing that kid, because they're talking about how they don't like these things. They're talking about what they feel, and yet nothing is changing.
Mm, mm. So to the to the see, I'm not gonna be able to help with everything in one conversation.
For sure. For sure.
I definitely got to keep it on brand, and I don't want to be everywhere. I kind of want to like at least like address certain areas. And since we're talking about demographics and with the church, and then like the community such as Flint, and then we're talking about like indicators. That's what I was trying to do, at least like how to notice things, how to notice like, hey, I need therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like how to get people to like recognize that self awareness. Um, and then you gave some language to what are some things that should be on your mind. You said perspective and opinion, and then you kind of put language
Mhm.
to that. So, aside from the things that we've already covered, what makes a healthy? How do we recognize if like I'm healthy mentally? Like, okay, I'm healthy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
How do we do a self check to make sure we healthy? Is there like a almost like a checklist, I want to say, that we can kind of go by?
I don't think. I think it's more of a practice. Like, did I take time for myself? Did I take time for my spirituality? If that, that's what I should um operate under. Did I take time to look at my week and the emotions that I experienced? Did I say no as much as I said yes, and maybe even more than what I've
So you
said
have
yes
to
to?
say no.
There are some things that just are non-negotiable. You have to say no to. Yes.
Like what?
Um, Things that cause you over burnout. If you know that you gave a lot today, and there's still other people that might need something, there's some things you have to be okay to say no to. And I know that's kind of like a general, because it would have to be like a specific situation. But I think that sometimes we don't say no or register why. How No, because no is a full sentence. No is a full sentence. I think it depends on the situation and where you're at in your season of life. You have to say no. I think sometimes we're very pressured to say yes out of people pleasing tendencies, or out of, I want to prove that I love this person, and they can depend on me, and what if I need them, and they remember that I said no, or they're afraid of punishment and consequences of saying no.
Okay.
Sometimes a no is healthy. So, you have to decide what that looks like though.
Yeah. Let me ask this: how common? I think we throw this word around so much because we almost like like Judas. Nobody wants to be
Mhm.
Judas. Nobody wants
No,
to be Judas, and
no
as
one's
they
gonna do
should.
this.
You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't want to be
Yes.
Judas. But this word selfish. Nobody wants to be selfish. How common is it that people are actually selfish though?
I
Not that
think
I'm biased one way or the other, because that kind of sounds like I was biased. But how common is it? I just want to know, like from your professional observation, how common is it that you encounter people and they are in fact selfish?
I guess it would have to be in the perspective, like, because I can't say that unless I have
Well, we
it's a
talk about
situation.
we talk about the word no and what's good for self.
hmm
So,
Um,
like, what if they always never like? What if they just straight up introvert? Like, nah, I'm really good by myself. Like, I mean, no.
no, I think because there are some people like that, and that's okay to an extent. But I think that to the point where it isolates you from growing or experiencing. Because are you saying no out of hurt? Like when you talk about the introverted person, like are you saying no out of hurt? Are you saying no out of lack of energy? And are you experiencing like depression? Are you experiencing
Like,
loneliness?
no out of just I don't want to.
Yeah,
Just
and I think
straight
that's
up,
healthy.
just
I
straight
don't,
up. I
I
don't.
don't, I don't experience a lot of people who have that capability of saying no just because I don't want to. I don't
Okay.
think that that's selfish.
If
I
if
think,
that if that if that is what's had, it's just like no.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
healthy?
No. I think it is healthy. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go in a year. No, this year I'm just gonna hit it with a no.
No, no, and
Uh,
that's a full sentence though. But like, I think a lot of people are afraid. And no, I don't have to explain why it's no. It's just no,
Okay, wait, y'all heard it here first. No.
no. Say it.
Man, can I get you back? Can I get you back? Because I don't want to hold you for too long because I want them to be able to digest it.
hmm
You know.
Yeah, I'm always down. You let me know.
Okay. So where can they find you? Um, yeah, where can they find you? This is part one, by the way. Where can they find you? What do you got going on? And I look
Okay.
forward
So I am currently a therapist, but I am not taking clients right now. So if you want more content or like, nothing in depth like this, of course, I'm grateful that I had this opportunity. Shout out to Theo. Shout out to Jesus. But you can follow me on TikTok at Gracefully Jada. That's my therapy page where I do lives, or I will sometimes like make mental health videos or posts that help with the everyday life. And when I go on live, you're always welcome to come up or type in the messages and just, we can have a conversation. Usually I have a question of the day. Um, and so that's pretty much my most used social
to.
media right now.
Got you. So when do you go live? Is it like a day that you normally go live, or is it just like, nope, when I got the time and I feeling it, I go live?
It's for sure more flexible these days, but if I could give you a certain day, it would be like Monday, Tuesdays, or Thursdays. And I usually let my followers know the next day that I'm going live. So when they're there, they kind of know, or I'll post it on my story on my TikTok.
Got you, got you. So it's on TikTok. So we're and it's gracefully Jada on all like on TikTok,
Yes.
and it's spelled just how it sounds.
Yes. Gracefully, the word gracefully, and then JADA.
Jada. Gracefully Jada on TikTok. Yeah, this is definitely part one. I'm gonna have to definitely get you back. Uh, quick, fast, and in a hurry to
Yeah.
isolate because it's hard to. Well, it wasn't hard, honestly, if I really did prepare for it. But if I was to prepare questions, I feel like I would withhold. I wouldn't go into this open-minded, ready to receive information from the conversation. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to more so like listen to you and like respond to what you were saying to try
Mm-hmm.
to help. But I did have a little bit of direction of what I wanted to, kind of like address, such as who needs therapy, when is it time to have therapy, and what are some like unhealthy behaviors and some known traits that are welcomed but not the correct uh, pattern or mentality to have. Like you say, uh, enabling is not good. It's definitely not good.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that confide in friends and family, which is beautiful. It's beautiful to
Mm-hmm.
have. However, it is not a professional.
Mm-hmm.
That can be
Yeah.
enabling, or it can be projecting, or
Yeah.
like you say, like they are
Yeah.
seeing you under a lens that
Yeah.
they know you under. So you can't
Yeah.
become the you that you're trying to inspire to be. Anyway, we gonna
Agree. Period. Yes.
yeah, we gonna definitely have Jada back. I just kind of want to keep adding language to it because, like I say, like showing love is big with me. Like
Yes.
I'm trying so hard to address things in my community is the community that you speak of amongst others, and they all
Hmm.
kind of got a shared that we all kind of share the same trauma. To be honest with you,
Yeah, in different forms or different perspective,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, rich folk too. It don't look like
yeah,
yelling. It look like spending therapy. What's it called? Money therapy, shopping therapy. What's it
yeah.
called? It's
Shopping
just
addictions or stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, like that.
like I'll
Yeah.
buy you this and I'll buy you that and I'll provide this and I'll provide that. And it's like,
Hmm.
but you're not providing you.
Yes,
I need
exactly.
you. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's definitely more to learn from you.
I appreciate that.
Definitely more to learn from you. So with that being said, we appreciate Jada, Gracefully Jada. We appreciate you for coming on the platform, Doctor. And till next time.
Bye.